Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Path of Exile. This episode, we're gonna have a quick look at our gear. I have upgraded everything. I now have 4 links in most of my items with the exceptions of my boots. And the axe is currently not properly linked. So, gonna go over the skills, how they link, the gear that I have. And then we're gonna go over the skill tree. I gained a couple of levels since last episode, and that's because I have been running the Dried Lake a couple times. I've run the mines and the crystal veins a couple times, and I even went into the first bit of Kaom's Dream in order to get a specific item I wanted. So I gained a couple of levels. So this is always the point when I'm standing here. This is always the point where I take inventory of what I have in terms of gear, in terms of skills, and I try to upgrade all my gear so that I will have at least maxed out resistances. Well, in this case, I have over 100 resist, and I even have a little bit of chaos resistance. That my life is in a solid spot, and I think 1260 life with 50 energy shield is pretty solid for this character. Defenses, armor is on the low end, 33% reduction. And evasion is at 44%, so I shifted that a little bit. And that's because I was mostly wearing pure armor gear before, while now it's based. Keep in mind, we still have 24% chance to block, so we're pretty good. So let's have a look at the gear. Our weapon is a small sword. This is one of the so-called Keth weapons that were introduced with the Awakening expansion. And they have a different implicit modifier than most other items of their type. So this is a pointy sword, like a fencing foil. And it has an 8% chance to cause a bleeding on hit. And because I'm going after bleeding and poison, this is a perfect kind of sword for us. It came out of the box with a nice amount of increased physical damage, and there's some elemental damage on top as well. The reduced attribute requirements are in my favor in this case because it now only requires 101 dex rather than the 120 or so that it would normally do. And I don't have that 120, but I do have 101. This build, this early on, because in the skill tree there are so many really useful skill nodes rather than travel nodes. It means you will be getting up a lot of things like life, evasion, resistances, damage modifiers, a whole bunch of leech, but you will not be getting a lot of raw stat points early on. So in order to solve that, I crafted some strength on my weapon. I've been doing that before, you might have noticed that. I'm using an amulet that has dex and intelligence and also has some dex from its own. I added accuracy on top because there were not really a lot of useful things to add, and accuracy does help you hit things, and therefore it increases your damage. So we upgrade our weapon. Our axe is the level 36 one-handed axe, Jasper axe. It's a bit middle of the road, but its damage is pretty solid. We have a amethyst ring. This came out of my stash, but starting at level 30 you will be able to start finding them on your own. And there's some elemental resist on here, there's a bit of energy shield on here, there's intelligence again, just to help us boost our stats. And I picked this specifically because of the chaos resistance, because I want to start a habit of keeping up my chaos resistance all the way from now, and I just want to keep building it. I want to keep my chaos resistance in the positive at all times, and in higher difficulties even see if we can get it above 50%. The other ring is just a plain old resistance ring with some added life on top. We're still using our tabula, but we now have a secondary ring which has a bunch of armor and evasion. I think this by itself contributes the most armor and evasion out of all the gear, which is funny. And it has a bunch of resistances on there as well. That for most of the gear, that's actually a theme. Armor, evasion, resistances, that's the 3 things you want to look for. After that, life is useful, and after that, for most armor and stuff, there's not really a lot that can actually be useful. The boots, steel scale, that's the level 36 type of boots, so it will drop from monster level 36. So basically you need to go into Kaom's Dream to get items like this, or you need to fight bosses in slightly lower level areas, because bosses have a higher monster level than other mobs. And finally we have some steel skill here. And gloves can add a little bit of physical damage to them, which is kind of useful. And there's some evasion and life on here as well as some resistances. And the belt is still the same I have been using since before. I've changed my flasks a little bit. We now have a Sacred Mana Flask, which recovers a whopping 660 mana. And this just fixes shock for us. We have a Silver Flask instead of a Quicksilver, because I noticed that with Whirling Blades always available, I don't need a Quicksilver Flask in order to move around quickly. And I was not really using them. So I picked up a Silver Flask. The increased damage is pretty nice. And on top of that, it creates Consecrated Ground, which gives you 4% of your life, which regenerates 4% of your life per second. So that is pretty significant. And there's freeze removal in here, because the Quicksilver used to have that. And lastly, we now have a Granite Flask of Adrenaline. I started off with a white Granite Flask, increased it to 20% quality in order to boost its duration. And then I started rolling it with Alteration Shards. And ended up with this one. It has increased duration, so it will last for 6.4 seconds, which is kind of nice, because this you only need it in boss fights, and there you usually want to keep it up for a bit, because in sticky situations you want to be able to rely on it. So of course I picked this up thinking of Daresso. We'll see if I'll actually remember to use it. So in terms of skill links, of course we still have Lacerate with melee physical, Fortify, Poison, faster attacks, and added fire. Added fire, I would wish there was a useful physical alternative to this. There is the support gem that will give you more damage if you are at your maximum life. Problem is, we have a little bit of energy shield, but most of the time during a fight we will be leeching, and that means we will be below our maximum, and therefore it will not help us. So if you're really strong on energy shield, that's a very nice support, but for us it doesn't work. So I'm going with added fire until I think of something better to do. But no, 34% of your physical damage added as fire is nothing to sneeze at. And as a duelist, our leech will take this into consideration, though it doesn't transfer to bleeding and poison. So next up, we got a riposte. It's a passive, triggers whenever we block. We link it with melee physical, because riposte is just a single target defense, but melee splash turns it into an AoE, and then we just add more melee physical and life on hit. It helps us sustain while we are surrounded and things are trying to attack us. Then let's see, Summon Stone Golem. It's useful. Can't say anything else about it. And just the War Chief, it was out for a while because we didn't have the space. It's back now. This is just a really, really nice totem. And I noticed that the melee damage actually scales up a little bit as you level the War Chief up. So this means at higher levels the War Chief is going to grant you even more melee damage than it already did. Linked with melee physical and fortify. And the funny thing is that both the totem and the golem benefit from both modifiers. So you can get a totem with fortify as long as it hits things. So it will make itself a bit sturdier. We have Immortal Call with increased duration. After we defeat Kaom Daresso, we will be able to get the passive support gem. No, not passive, just a support gem for castman damage taken. That's going to go into the final slot then. For now, Vengeance is in here to just have another counter attack. And our two auras are in our axe. That's going to be Hatred and Herald of Ash. Both increase our damage. So, life increased from about 1000 to 1260. So that's a quarter up, which is good for staying alive. Damage used to be at 840, now it's at 1256. So it went up by 50% by just swapping to better weapons. And by... well, I gained a couple of levels, so the skills went up a couple of levels, of course. But for melee, that's never really a big factor. And in addition to that, because we gained our levels, I finally just consulted my build plan and figured out where to go. So one point went here, just to round out our life, evasion and armor bonuses. And all the other points went in here in order to get to bloodletting. So this chain gives you 20% increased physical damage over time. Melee attacks have an 8% chance to cause bleeding, which is the same as our weapons. So we currently have a 16% chance to cause bleeding with our melee attacks. And on top of that, bloodletting, 30% increased physical damage over time. Stacks with this one to get a total of 50%. And we have an increased attack damage against bleeding enemies. And the interesting bit here is that the attack damage doesn't list that it's physical. All attack damage. So that includes all elemental damage on our Lacerate. And we have quite a bit of elemental damage on our attacks. We try to be physical, but the Herald of Ash and Hatred, they do add a lot of elemental damage, and just weapons naturally come with it as well. So this really gets boosted. The moment we get someone to bleed, they take extra damage, which is nice. So from here, we will be getting Bloodless. This wheel here, just to get more life, increase our life pool, increase our survivability. And after that, we're gonna go down here to Hematophagy, or however you would pronounce that. It increases our physical attack damage as which we leech as life, so we leech more. On top of that, our maximum life per second for the maximum life leech is boosted as well. Normally, I did a bit of reading up on the Path of Exile wiki about how life leech works, because it's actually a rather complicated mechanic if you get into the nitty-gritty. So by default, if you attack something and you do damage, the percentage of damage that you leech is done. So let's say we do 1,000 damage. We have 10% life leeched, just to make up a crazy number. Then we would leech 100 life. The thing is, you don't leech that instantly. It leeches over time. And by default, a single attack can at most leech 2% of your maximum life per second. So for us, that will be 25 life per second. I think so. That was roughly the number I came up with. So that's 25 per second. So that means if we are gonna leech 100 life, but we can only leech it at 25 per second, that means that single instance of the life the life that gets leeched will be active for 4 seconds. The interesting thing is that just like poison, leech can stack. So you hit him once, you get this little buff, you could say it, that will give you 25 life per second for 4 seconds for a total of 100. If you hit him again, you get another instance of leeching. Let's say you hit him for the exact same amount, you get another one of those stacks that gets you 25 life per second for 4 seconds. And there is a maximum limit by default, that is 20% of your life that you can leech per second. So you can say, let's say it's 10 stacks. No, technically it's not how it works, but it's an easy way to think about it. And that's the maximum. So if you hit a mob 10 times in a row to get 10 stacks, or if you hit 10 mobs at the same time in order to get 10 stacks, doesn't really matter. When you are at your cap, then at most every second you can regain 20% of your maximum life back from leeching. That's just out of the box. Okay, that said, that's where the things like the 20% increased life leeched per second comes in. Because this increases the amount of life that you leech with each of those individual life leech buffs, so to say. And the 2% is now increased by 20%, so that would make it 2.4%. And we have a couple of them, so we got 10, 10, 20. Once we go over here, we get another 20. And then there is another 10 and 10, so that's another 40 here. So that's 80%. So that would take you from 2% to 3.6%. If you get another 20% somewhere, it rounds out to a nice extra, to a nice 4%. So that means that you need to hit mobs less often, or you need to hit less different mobs in order to get quicker to your maximum of 20%. So that's why the +5 to maximum life per second to maximum life leech rate comes in, because it just increases that 20% by I think 5% in this case, so you just raise the ceiling of how much you can leech per second with your life leech. So I did gain a bit more appreciation for all the different leech related stats that are in here, because otherwise it's like, yeah, it has something to do with life leech, there's a lot of numbers on here, so it must be good. But I hope that my understanding is correctly and that you might have learned something about this as well. Okay, so I've been talking for 15 minutes about life leech and gear. We've upgraded everything, so let's actually get started. Let's kill a king. So our damage went up, our life went up, and we're doing bleeding. We do more damage against bleeding enemies. So it basically means we are more powerful than before. And as a result, I'll probably get more overconfident than before as well. That's kind of how it works for me. We'll see how far we can get through. But one thing to keep in mind with the leech is that just the amount of life that you leech per attack. No, that's just one factor. If you hit enough enemies often enough, it might be that you will naturally hit that 20% of your life per second limit. And that's gonna be it. Or no, if you only hit a single target, then you will get one stack, and by default a single stack of life leech is limited to a maximum of 2% of your life per second. So you might be hitting very hard. Now if you hit for like 1,000,000 damage and you have 100% life leech, no, I would still be limited to that, in my case 25 life per second, which means that I would be leeching for about 40,000 seconds. Basically that's a whole lot of hours. It's probably longer than you will have time to play. Oh, I buffed Immortal Call. I should stop buffing Immortal Call now. It's level 3. That's gonna be the limit for the very, very low level Immortal Call. Hello there, saplings. So normally these guys hurt. Look at me not caring. Oh. It's probably also because my golem is tanking this like mad. Ooh, there's a rogue exile in here, that's nice. Let's pick up a reflex bow. And then that's it. Ooh, ice shots. Not a yellow. And oh, okay. Hello, there comes Chosen. So. And we found the exit to the next area. That's good. So far, so good. I think I'm gonna make this an extra long episode where we'll do Kaom and then we'll do Daresso afterwards, just to get all of the content done. Then in between episodes, I'll actually, I'm changing my mind mid-sentence there. Usually, no, by the time we defeat Kaom, we'll have enough content done for a single episode. Then I'll actually spend a little bit of time to get the cast when damage taken integrated into the build, so we will have an Immortal Call set up before we do the Daresso. No, wait, we don't get it until after the Daresso. Never mind. Yes. Hey, thinking out loud. Yes, it's how I think. It's also how you can easily participate in my thinking process, or at least follow along. So the thinking here is Daresso is a bit of a badass, scary guy. He does a lot of physical damage, especially those swords of his. We know by using Immortal Call, we can get a safety measure integrated into the build that will trigger when we take too much damage at the same time. And it will provide us just a small window of opportunity to get out before we die. Or instead of dying, preferably. But you don't get it as a reward until after you defeat Kaom and Daresso. I could trade for it, but really it would be nicer. No, just play the build with the gems in the order that you would naturally acquire them. Okay, so Triskeriaki is in his caldera down there. So this is gonna be fun. Triskeriaki is a badass. Can we kill? Okay, we actually have a granite flask. Let's use it. Also, we have our other flask. So normally 33% armor reduction with 644 armor. If we drink a granite flask, we go up to 6500, 83% physical damage reduction. Granite flask at low levels is cheating. It's that good. Also need more mana reserves. And there's a angry ghost there. Yo. If you don't have anyone to possess, then I'll just kill you. No, ghosts need to do their job or lose their heads. Either way. Wouldn't want to be a ghost in this game. Or any game. Or at all, actually. Everybody will just see right through you. But the upside is we survived the Triskeriaki. Surviving Triskeriaki is always a good sign. And especially in combination with Granite Flask. You are... well, if you time it correctly, you are pretty much invincible. At least this early on. Once we get our Immortal Call up, that's gonna be another safety feature. Ooh, Brigadorbs. Okay. But no, we really are slicing through things without too much resistance. Which is good. Also, one of the things to come back to regarding the Leech stacks is Lacerate does 2 attacks. So even if you're fighting a boss, your natural state is going to be to slash, slash. So you'll do 2 attacks in very rapid succession, or as part of the same attack movement. So that means, whoa, what? Oh, it fractured. So that means you will naturally be doing 2 life leech stacks in very rapid succession. So it will help you leech more if you are at the stage in your development where you will just leech cap yourself for single leech stacks. Then you'll always get 2 of those stacks. And because we already have a couple of bonus points to how much we leech anyway, no, the natural state against a single boss, which means will mean we get 2 stacks of, what is it, 20%, no, but we're going for about 3.6, so that's 2 stacks, that's about 7.2% of your maximum life leech per second. That's going to be our natural cap. If we do more damage that it will actually last over multiple attacks, then it's going to be pretty easy for us to hit it, because with three slashes like that, you're already over 21%. Do a 4th set of stacks, get you closer to 30%. So if we were able to achieve that with our current damage output, just speculating again here, if we were able to achieve our leech, a leech cap of 30% of our maximum life per second regenerated via leeching, that would mean we would get 400 life per second, which is quite a bit. I think at this stage of the game there's not a lot of mobs that can do that much damage to you. There was a yellow here. Yes, there. Want to kill you. I want your loot. Give me your loot. So I'm waiting for the next tier, the level 42 flasks. They heal up to close to 2000 points of life. And those are flasks I consider to be endgame viable. Just because 2000 is very close to what the very endgame ones do, about 2500. So the level 42 flasks are flasks that I would personally consider flasks that you can spend quite some currency on to craft in order to, you know, get them to 20% quality, in order to have an insta-heal flask, in order to have some bleeding fixing, you know, all the usual things that you would normally do with your life flasks. No, level 42 are the ones that are worth the currency to craft. Okay, this is the road of least resistance, it seems like. There's not a lot of enemies here. Well, we'll have a lot of fun facing down Kaom anyway, so that's gonna be good. So we are very close to leveling. Would be nice to get a couple more spawns, so we can hit the next level before the Kaom fight. Because then we have another spawning blades. If you get some relevant damage skills to upgrade just before a boss fight, that's always pretty sweet. Same goes for the stronger defensive skills. But as I said, it's probably more useful for a spellcaster than it is for a meleeer. Right, relatively quiet, let's spend our point. So, I'm gonna grab this one. Did the golem just kill something that was trying to murder us? That's pretty sweet. Multiple rares, 3 of them. It's completely volatile Stormblood, that's gonna be a bit of a pop. Oh, we got max resists and it's pretty early on, so it's not gonna be overly scary. Later on, things might get dicey. Here it's okay. Golem went up, that's pretty nice. Golem is life, or at least a regen. And we are there. This is the bridge. Hello, King Kaom. So, let's put a totem down just to pretend like this is a serious fight. Let's actually drink our silver flask to increase our damage even more. Boom. That was Kaom. So, regular damage is 1240. With a totem, 13. And then with the silver, 1550. So we do quite some damage. And let's pick up the... We'll go back for the eye. This way I won't forget to go back for the eye. Just put some stuff in here for sorting. So there you have it. King Kaom's head on a stick. Or at least we poked his eye out. And then we go back. And I think we should just continue with Daresso anyway. As I said, then we have a... I always like doing these two teams together. Let's hand off the eye. Here you go. Now we could go on. Next. I always like doing the dreams together. They go together. This is usually, it's 10 minutes. You can do it. As I said, bonus episode. Bonus content, extra long. You know what I said. Words, they are so difficult sometimes. Which is rather annoying if you're making YouTube videos where you're actually using words to communicate ideas and things. But that life is not really moving a lot, is it? Also feel like the chickens aren't really trying yet. Come on. Come on. Yes. Next. Speaking of prophecies, we have 2 prophecy slots available. And when we hit the waypoint, we'll... oh no, that's gonna be the next area already. Well, actually... Boop, 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 boop. So, you know what? Actually go back and grab some prophecies. No, it's gonna be an extra long episode anyway. Might as well do this. The Invader. Encounter a very powerful invading monster and slay it. Cool. That's gonna be a invasion monster. And then waiting in ambush. You will be attacked by a Rogue Exile when opening a strongbox. Cool. So the Rogue Exile, it has the opportunity to trigger basically at the first strongbox that we encounter. It might already trigger there. And I think some recent patches actually increased the likelihood of prophecies triggering whenever they can, rather than having a random delay factor built in. So I think this one was not what's supposed to be picked up. No, it was not a chromatic trilink. Ooh, hello ghost. That's 2 ghosts in a row. Strongbox. Oh, come on, you. Yes. No, mental note, we have to go back. There was interesting stuff there. Okay. So, to me the most interesting bit about playing the current build is that I haven't traded for powerful items. Everything I'm using is just stuff I found or crafted, which makes this a rather beginner friendly build, I would say. Or maybe not a beginner friendly build, but no, it's a suitable new league build. I did craft, or I did trade for the... Oi, you. Yes. I did trade for the poison gem, which technically is not a necessity, it's a nice to have. It will allow you to poison things earlier without getting the skill things on the skill tree for it. And no, trading for gems is not a big deal. Strength and dex, let's just pick it up. And this, Orb of Chance. Oh, yeah. But if you just pay attention to, you know, crafting your gear, keeping it up, now this is a relatively, so far it feels like powerful and safe build that would be very nice for starting a new league. I started with the Frostbolt Vortex build that in the end turned more into a Frostbolt build that has some Vortex in there. But in hindsight, this would have been a perfect build to start the league as well. I would have been able to do less crafting, that's for sure. But I think the damage output and sustainability would still have been pretty darn decent. If you put this in a 4-link, no, then you would probably take out the poison. And then probably take out the faster attacks or the added fire. Just see what works best if you want to do big hits that do a lot of damage, or if you want to burn through mana faster. Faster attacks is always one. If you take it out, you will use less mana. That's the per attack, but also in total because you attack less often. So in case of mana issues, that's a very nice one. But given just how much leads we have... Oh, by the way, that was Sparkle. He's dead now. Now this is not as cookie cutter as playing an Earthquaker. Earthquake is just you slam and the entire screen explodes. It's not that level of cookie cutter, but so far this build has potential, and I'm really curious to see how far I can push this. Hey, speaking of Vortex. Okay, and then a Grand Arena. Okay, waypoint. Let's take it to town to restock our prophecies. So that was 5 minutes for the first part of the Daresso stream. As I say, it's a relatively quick stream. I don't think he sleeps all that much. Let's put a spit in there. You seek prophecy. Waiting in ambush again. I'm not complaining. We get another exile from a strongbox. So this is a level 38 area, which is of course nice for items that can drop. Higher level is better. I'm 42, so in terms of difficulty, should be able to handle it. I out-leveled them. But as we did discover when I went through with my Vortexer, the arena can eventually get very dangerous. No, that was merciless. This is just normal. Things have a habit of being a bit more toned down on normal difficulty. But so far I like the way the defenses of this character work. There's blocking, there's evasion, so there's two different ways of just making sure you never even get hit. Then for those times you do get hit, we got max elemental resistances, we got some chaos resists, and we got armor to reduce physical damage. We have fortify to reduce physical damage. And then after we get hit and we have taken life damage, then we have pretty decent life regeneration coupled with a fair amount of life leech over all of our melee damage. So we're hitting all the marks that for a build that can potentially be pretty good. And even have a little bit of energy shield to boot, just to really tick all the boxes. Hello there, mad gladiators. Goodbye, mad gladiators. And there they go. No more hot dogs for me. Let's see. Did we do it right? No. Yeah, this is gonna be the uniques. Yes, hello there. Okay, these guys do damage. But we have our 2 magical flasks that hopefully will help keep us alive if things really do get dire. Well, the main upside of playing a life-based build rather than an energy shield-based build is that your entire life pool is always used, no matter what kind of damage the opponent is doing. What I said earlier over this area can be dangerous. Of course, that was with my Frostbolt character, which is mostly energy shield based in terms of defenses. We have a little bit of life, but it's mostly energy shield. It's like 5000 energy shield versus 2000 regular life. So if you then get chaos damage that bypasses your energy shield, you die very quickly. So Daresso, let's put down a totem just to make it look a little bit interesting. Okay. So we are standing in swords. Of course I got flasks up. Put a totem down. Totems up again, or flasks up again. Okay. Let's do our godly cry and we kill him. So I was intentionally pushing here just to see how far I could push. But face tanking Daresso without a golem, because the golem died, while standing in the middle of his blades, and just by drinking these 2 flasks, not even life flasks actually, I was just drinking these 2 flasks, we were able to sustain ourselves just off of the regen that we got from the silver flask, and just the sheer amount of life leech that we are doing. So, as I say, this build has potential. So for now, the moment you have all been waiting for, of course, gonna activate the laser. Boom. Okay, then that was that for this episode. I'm gonna do some gear and skill upgrades. Well, skill upgrades, because I want to get the cast and damage taken in to trigger this one automatically. And then I'll be back. And then we're gonna go after Malachi. And after we defeat Malachi, we're gonna do the Labyrinth and defeat Zaro. And then it's gonna be Cruel O'Clock. So, for now, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.